Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one! Another one!
Oladipo!
one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Worked out by Burke. Bounces into Cody. Puts it up. Scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Welcome in, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. Made it halfway point. Plenty to talk about. Indiana traveled to Syracuse last night for their first road game. Lots of coaching moves still going on. How's your Wednesday? Not quite as nice outside as it has been, but that's expected. Plenty to get to today. John, the producer, who is on the schedule today? Of course,
we're going to be joined with Derrick Jackson, our friend Derrick Jackson, about 9:10. And then shortly after, he's going to be bringing on Kenny Allen with us. And then We'll obviously have our weekly segment with, or that we call Scratch the Itch, with Bob Kravitz and Rick Bozich.
What a lineup. Plenty to get to, plenty to talk about. As like I said, Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame, $9.5 million. Same money that Mel Tucker receiving at Michigan State after one season. Crazy. So plenty to talk about there. Indiana last night, of course, traveled to Syracuse for their first road game. Did not work out too well for the Hoosiers, although they go to double overtime after being down 18 points. Showed a lot of moxie, but they also showed a lot of deficiencies as they let a team that does not shoot very well last night. They allowed Syracuse to shoot very well behind the 3-point line. And man, they lose to a team that had been 3-3. Trying to pull those stats back up. I don't know why they keep disappearing on me. But Indiana's shooting the ball well. So there's good, the bad, and the ugly. You know, the good is Indiana is shooting the ball well. There it is. Nearly 40%. Excuse me, behind the 3-point line. It was 40% behind the 3-point line last night. And that's on 27 attempts. 27 attempts, and Indiana shot 40%, hitting 11 of those. Miller Kopp, 4 of 9. Parker Stewart, 6 of 12. 6 of 12. Woo, baby. Hitting 50% on 12 attempts. That's getting something done. Can't get the win. Miller Kopp with a career high 28 points on 9 of 16 shooting last night. Race Thompson was 17 points, 12 rebounds, 8 assists, and 7 turnovers. He was near a quadruple double. Unfortunately, their turnovers would have been a part of that. Parker Stewart, 20 points, 6 of 12 shooting overall. So all of his attempts were 3-pointers. Xavier Johnson, 4 points on 1 of 2 shooting. Fouled out after 26 minutes. Parker Stewart eventually fouled out after 39 minutes. But Rob Finney fouling out after just 14 minutes of play. That hurt Indiana. There was a stretch where they didn't have a point guard where they really could have, where they didn't have an experienced point guard. But Christian Lander didn't do bad. The only was when they didn't get the shot off at the end of the overtime, which they could have gotten. That was, you had a shot to win the game right there and put it away. People joining us now. Mike the Music Man. Tough loss for Indiana last night. Too many turnovers? Absolutely. Holy Christ. Criminally. 25 turnovers? Are you kidding me? But it's the points off of turnovers. 33 points off turnovers. That's one of the biggest numbers I've ever seen. Tim's trying to figure out how they come back from 18 down and lose by 2. Well, you turn the ball over. You keep turning the ball over. That's how you do that. Did Syracuse make that big of an adjustment, or did IU stop doing what they were doing after cutting the lead down? Well, Syracuse didn't stop. They didn't just quit. It was just it became a game of runs then. They allowed Syracuse to shoot 38% from 3. That's one thing. And 49% overall. That's substantially above what they normally are able to hit. Shell said it was good to see what Miller can do. Race and Trace both 13 combined turnovers last night. Yeah, that doesn't work out too well. That didn't hurt out. That didn't help too well at all. But lots of other things going on. How's your day? Also, plenty of other. How about Ohio State knocking off number 1 Duke? That's going to be interesting because now does Purdue finally vault to that number 1 spot in the AP basketball poll that they have never held. It was a possibility last week when Gonzaga went down, but being that Duke delivered that blow, they were vaulted above them, I think, and rightfully so. But now they're probably going to be number 1. They won their game last night. But the Big Ten, I think, is doing okay in this ACC Big Ten Challenge. Scores, let's see. Big Ten. Indiana, of course, loses in double overtime, but Ohio State knocking off Duke. You got Purdue beating Florida State 93-65. Minnesota goes to Pittsburgh and ekes out a 1-point win there, 54-53. Northwestern lost a close one at Wake Forest. Rutgers beats Clemson. So that's, 4-2? I think there was a couple games on Monday. Iowa and Illinois. Looks like the Big Ten is leading this thing like 6-2 right now, right? More games coming tonight. Louisville is at Michigan State. That ought to be a pretty daggone good game. Nebraska travels to North Carolina State. That's going to be a tough game for the Cornhuskers. I hate when these commercials come on when I'm looking at something and no one else can hear it, and I think they can. Maryland hosts Virginia Tech. Wisconsin travels to Georgia Tech. Michigan travels to North Carolina. And Miami travels to Michigan State. So some opportunities for the ACC to catch way back up. Michigan, North Carolina, that's going to be a good game. Is that at 9:30? Yeah, 9:15, that game is scheduled. Wisconsin is at 9:15. The Michigan State game at 7:15. Virginia Tech, Maryland, both those games could be good, possibly. Let's see. We go to what, 8:50? I'm still getting used to these new times, man. Hope everyone else is doing well. Looking forward to talking to Bob and Rick, as always. Derrick Jackson joins us today as well. Bringing on another guest, as he does. What else happening in the world of who's going to Notre Dame? Who's going to fill that spot? That's going to be an interesting, because not only do you have these big movements now with Lincoln Riley going to USC. Now Oklahoma's open. Notre Dame is open. These are some gigantic jobs that are open. And now who gets those? Who's one of the heads to go to Notre Dame? Luke Fickell, of course. Jeff Brom. Those are names that come up. Luke Fickell. Now, see, they're getting ready to move into the Big 12, so he wasn't expected to go anywhere, although they've had a lot of success. But now you've got some jobs that come open that just don't come open very often. Notre Dame does not come open very often. Oklahoma does not come open very often. They've had the same coach since Bob Stoops. And that does bring to mind, what about Mark Stoops? Does he recommend his brother? Would Mark Stoops leave the SEC in Kentucky to go to Oklahoma? Interesting thought. I thought about that yesterday. I didn't bring it up, but because you hear Mark Stoops' name here and there. Interesting to think about. We got to take a break. We got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat. Welcome in on this Wednesday. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration or
Hey, sorry I couldn't be there to help doing that one with you because I was trying to get Keegan set up correctly with Zoom so he could see everything. I couldn't jump in and talk with you.
It's all right.
Now that I can talk to Keegan on here while we have a couple minutes, can you see everything now? StreamYard, Spreaker, when I pull it up, like we hear when I show Spreaker, you can see me pulling that up?
Me?
Perfect. No, Keegan.
I'm trying to make some.
I'm talking to him. Perfect. So you can see my StreamYard layout. That's good. One thing you can't see, and I don't think there's any way to do this, is my second monitor, which is where I'm playing all of my YouTube stuff. But for example, with you, like when you're doing this, since you only have one monitor, you'll just have an extra tab open with YouTube. I just like having it on a separate monitor because it's easier to go back and forth. Now, can you hear the audio on Zoom too, Keegan? You're muted right now, so I can't hear you, but let me see if I can. Oh, I can't unmute you. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay.
Can you hear the audio on Zoom? No? So you do need to keep StreamYard pulled up? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. At least this is working. And we'll do this again, obviously, now that we know exactly how to get this pulled up correctly from the beginning next time you're on here.
Okay.
What were you saying, though?
So the big headphones that you hit.
Oh, the top up here?
Yeah.
So it's obviously going through, right? You see, well, you can't really see. Oh, the bottom right here at the cable input. You can tell it's going outward.
Yeah. That's
playing the commercial, anything from over here on this button bar.
Okay.
And so when I hit the headphones, it just enables all of us to hear it. And that's whenever you usually hear me say, we're coming back. I hit the headphones. It lets people know we're coming back from commercial break. And then you'll see me go through the little shebang here in a couple seconds, actually. Jim, We got about 40 seconds. go ahead and bring us back in.
The Rivals Network. TheHoosier.com is where you'll find complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers, as well as coverage of the Big Ten. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also catch Indiana Sports Beat Radio there each day at your convenience, or you can find it any place you podcast or on this station each weekday. If we're not on the station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Happy Wednesday. How's everybody doing? Hope you're having a great day. Halfway through the week. You know, the week after Thanksgiving, it's tough. You get those days off. Whoo, you got to go back. Thank goodness Christmas is coming up, but we kind of get screwed on Christmas this year. Christmas is on a Saturday, which means kind of get screwed out of the off days. Man, don't like that. Talked about number one Duke going down last night in the ACC Big Ten Challenge. Ohio State shuts down Duke in the final minutes. Zed Key scored a career-high 20 points. The Buckeyes hold off and hold Duke scoreless for the final 4.5 minutes. They complete a 15-point second-half rally. They beat Duke 71-66. Number one Duke, I should say. E.J. Liddell hit a couple of free throws with a $1:06 remaining. That gave the Buckeyes their first lead since early in the first half. So there's another Big Ten team you got to look out for. They just beat the number one team in the country. And they were unranked. Unranked. That's not going to last long. As neither will Duke's number one ranking. Does Purdue go to number one next week? For the first time ever. I'm sure they will. I don't think Gonzaga plays anyone this week of consequence to do anything, and unless Purdue were to lose, and I don't imagine that this time of year coming up right now. So expect to see.
It's interesting though. Purdue starts off their Big Ten conference slate against Iowa at home. I know it's at home, but Iowa having a good start to the season as well.
Yeah, it is a good point. But unless Iowa can come up with the upset, Iowa's not as strong as they have been in the past.
It's where you find out if they're really the real deal, if that Keegan Murray dude is legit, because they're off to a 7-0 start. They won their
first of all, anybody named Keegan, is a little shady.
Speaking
Inside
of Keegan,
joke.
he's ran away from his screen.
Inside
right there,
joke.
So
He probably missed that. He didn't get to hear that.
he may have missed it just barely.
It's all right. It's all right. But yeah, the Big Ten, we wondered what it was going to be like. Well, we had to let it shake out. Purdue is the best in the league, no doubt. Michigan, one of the best. Where's Ohio State sitting now? I don't know. But Indiana last night at Syracuse, we saw some good things, but you saw that they are not where they need to be, because that was a mediocre Syracuse team that Indiana battled.
Yeah, I mean, one thing
1-12,
that Syracuse had
1-10
going
loss.
for it is that they had their backs against the wall. I mean, you heard the announcer say it a million times. Syracuse absolutely had to win this if they wanted to start saving their season, which is why you saw them come out the way that they did in the first half. And Indiana wasn't ready to respond. Thankfully, Mike Woodson made those adjustments at halftime, and you saw them compete and come back. I mean, they were down 18 points. I guarantee you could count on one hand how many Indiana fans or media, anybody, thought, based on what we had seen in years past, even though there was a new staff, that this Indiana team could come back against somebody down 18 on the road like that, and they did. So there's obviously progress being made. it's early in the season. I'm not trying to give them any sort of excuse, but it's definitely a positive thing to see them fight in an environment like that, even though it's against probably a subpar, middle-of-the-road ACC Syracuse team.
It just comes down to those 26 turnovers, man. 26 turnovers and 33 points for Syracuse off of those turnovers. I don't care who you're playing. Woo! That's a giveaway. That's just a giveaway.
Yeah, and the fact that they were in double overtime to begin with that many turnovers is pretty shocking, to be honest.
And the 13 points between Trace Jackson-Davis and Race Thompson, that is just a backbreaker because they both played 45 minutes apiece.
Yeah. I mean, and especially the other end of it is Xavier Johnson fouls out. He had, I think, 7, 8, 9 assists and I think only 1 turnover. So your top point guard isn't playing much of the game because he's getting in foul trouble and therefore somebody who could take care of the ball. So, I mean, that also adds up as well when you're getting those fouls.
They needed Xavier Johnson badly at the end.
Yeah. I mean, you had your top
Christian
2 point guards
could not create
Lander's the third.
penetration. So there was just the offense got stale without Xavier Johnson. The offense got very stale, I guess you could say. So it's a game Indiana could have won. They did not win. They're not there yet. They have to learn. They have to get better because they were better. They had better personnel, but they just got beat by not doing the things they need to do. Xavier Johnson fouling out, like you said, that was a killer. He only had 4 points. He only took 2 shots. He was the only starter not in double figures. But we also saw Indiana. We keep talking about that depth. If it hadn't been for the foul trouble, Finney, we would have seen. Geronimo played 4 minutes. Tamar Bates played an uneventful 14 minutes. Lander would not have played the minutes that he played. Tamar Bates, he was a quiet 14 minutes. He was 1 of 5, 0 for 4 from behind the 3. Just not a good night for him. But that's the way it goes. Now Indiana, what is their next game against Nebraska? Or no, that's Merrimack or someone this weekend, right?
No, they're on, excuse me. Yeah, they open up Big Ten play. They got Nebraska at home, and then next week you travel to Madison, take on Wisconsin.
Well, they still have a couple of non-con games, but
they do have afterward. They have Merrimack, they have Notre Dame, they have Northern Kentucky, they have UNC Asheville. I think that actually rounds out the non-conference schedule after that. So
opening up conference play this weekend. They're fine. I think that they're fine and ready, but then you've got to go to Wisconsin. That's going to be
not to mention a Wisconsin team that won the Maui Invitational this year.
Yeah, a lot of people think Madison's not good. I saw some people say, "Oh, Madison's not that very good." Bull crap. They just won the Maui, man. You win any kind of a tournament like that, you're being put through the ringer. You're playing in a tournament atmosphere. You're beating some teams. So
many would argue that maybe this year's Maui field wasn't as good as it normally is. I mean, Oregon has kind of been pretty sloppy. They were supposed to be kind of the headliners of the Maui, and they ended up getting like 5th, I think. You had St. Mary's, who was their championship game in the Maui Invitational, which many people probably wouldn't have expected that team to be who they would be facing. And then you got Notre Dame, who's kind of struggling. They didn't do too well in the Maui either. I mean, so it may not have been the best field, but I do agree. It is one of those things where anytime you win your pre-conference tournaments that you get slated in, it shows that you can win in those types of environments.
Looking across, we've still got Indiana in need of an offensive coordinator. A lot of names being thrown out there, but that's about all you can do right now. Throw some names out there. Tim Cramsey, he's the offensive coordinator at Marshall. Of course, they come off of a good season. I talked about him yesterday. He's been with two different coaches there. It's kind of unusual. Zach Kitley at Western Kentucky. I'd like to talk about them. They broke records there, and that's saying something with the people that have been there. Here's a name I haven't seen. It kind of jumps out at you. Frank Ponce. Well, I have seen it. App State offensive coordinator. The name Ponce jumps out at you. He's the first year, did a great job there. Willie Korn at Coastal Carolina. People talking about him, of course, because Coastal Carolina's had a nice little run. Barry Lunny Jr. at UT San Antonio. Eric Idness in Northern Illinois. Brian Grubb. Fresno State behind, but it'd be interesting to see where he goes after Kalen DeBoer has gone to Washington. So Kalen DeBoer now off to Washington. I don't think that had happened yet. Anthony Tucker's at Utah State. Mike Thiessen's at Air Force. Sam Gregg's Liberty offensive line coach. Andrew Briner. FIU. Justin Fry, a former IU player, is at UCLA, offensive coordinator. He's not going to leave there for this job. Brian Hartline, Ohio State receivers coach.
Who would you say right now, if you were making the decision, who would you be going for right now?
Man, it's so hard to say because you don't know all the situations behind the scenes. Yeah. But I think you look at, you do look at some of these guys that I just talked about. Zach Kitley, for one. He's going to jump at a chance to move up to the Big Ten. Same with Willie Korn at Coastal Carolina or Tim Cramsey at Marshall. They're going to jump at that opportunity. Is Ryan Grubb going to Washington, or would he rather come to the Big Ten? The money.
Or would he rather be a head coach? Who's to say he won't get the head coaching job at Fresno State?
Yeah, I'm not sure how much experience he has. So there's other names out there. Major Applewhite is an assistant for Kane Womack at South Alabama.
Why does that name sound familiar? Where has he been before that? Not Kane Womack, Major Applewhite.
Oh, he played at, was it Tennessee or Texas?
Okay.
He was a quarterback at
because I've seen him on lists in previous seasons as like a dark horse candidate to be.
Yes. You always hear his name up. His name kind of always pops up here of late. That's one of the issues is with so many coaching changes happening right now. There's so many staff changes happening right now. And what happens is you run the danger of getting someone and then somebody at Notre Dame saying, hey, we've got a spot. Boom. Likely could be gone, but it'll happen before the signing date. Like I said, today's what, 1st of December? So
yes, sir. When is first signing day?
December 15th. So within 2 weeks. I certainly believe this will be done.
And it's honestly another thing to take note of, to my knowledge. I mean, I know we've seen players jump in the transfer portal, but we haven't seen any decommitments yet, have we?
No.
That's definitely a bright spot to some of this.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to see people in the portal, always, no matter what. Every year. Next year, you'll see people in the portal, no matter what happens next season. Now, are you always going to see as many?
Because right now they're tied with Syracuse with a team with the most players in the portal right now.
How bad was Syracuse season?
I don't think it was nearly as bad as Indiana's, but they have been slowly declining over the past couple of years. So,
did something happen in Nebraska?
What we got?
Brian Hagedorn asking any word if Scott Frost still has a job.
I don't know if there's any news that's been out, but unless he just hasn't been keeping up with what has gone on in Nebraska. But at the same time, we don't keep up with everything that they do. So maybe something new has happened.
That's why I was asking, because last I heard he was coming back. He had gotten rid of the offensive staff, but he was returning. Just want to make sure we hadn't missed something there.
I'm taking a look, but
Mike talking about last night's basketball game, saying it's amazing they were even in that game at the end. It is. It really was. It was amazing they were able to come back from 18 down after turning the ball over that many times. It was just nuts. Geronimo did look lost. Ryan, I agree with you. Yeah, it was Texas like I thought. Sean, he just wants a coach who makes things happen, who isn't scared to make a mistake in a division with Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan. They need to be a fast, a little reckless, and exciting. Yep, they've got to be something different, man. You can't do the same thing as everybody else. You have to sometimes work within talent limitations, but they were getting all that done. So that's nothing we have to worry about. It's just, who is it going to be, and when is it going to be? You've got guys coming in that are curious. Like you said, the commitments. You've got guys that are here that are curious. You've got an entire quarterback's room that's curious because the quarterback's coach was Nick Sheridan. So, a lot of important. We up against a break?
Yes, sir.
Oh, we still got a couple of minutes. Perfect.
You can go.
Perfect. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to talking to Bob and Rick later about what's going on with hoops and the Colts. And DJ, looking forward to Derrick Jackson joining us as well. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here on this Wednesday. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
The pro and college football season.
All right, Keegan, were you able to see a lot of the maneuvering around with that? That's good. Wish you could see the other monitor too, but obviously there's no way to do that. I think we've kind of maxed out our technological potential with this. Should be hearing from Derrick Jackson shortly. I'm going to pull you out since you're staying muted because you can see us anyway. Somebody's alarms are going off. Keegan, I'm not going to pull this up on the comments, but can you see this? Hey, Jim, we got about 20 seconds. Derrick's not here yet, but he should be here in a couple minutes.
2021 Honda Passport. Also 0% APR financing over 48 months and $0 down. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurants.
Welcome back. What in the world John had planned there? Whew, what was that? Crazy.
You know, whenever I first listened to it, I thought it was something, it would just sound like some bongos.
Baby rap or something.
Yeah, and then I heard the voice and I was like, we don't want none of that. Why'd I pick this song? But yeah, there we go. Sometimes we make mistakes with their comeback music.
I can see a DJ joins us. I can see a little baby sitting there at the turntables doing some hip hop or something, man. That would be hilarious. What's up, DJ?
What's going on, Jim? How you doing, brother?
I am alive and well as we are hitting kind of a changeover part of the season. Football kind of, unfortunately for Indiana, coming to an end, but the end of the season here, conference championships coming up this weekend, the Big Ten championship this weekend, a surprise with Michigan and Iowa both in, which a lot of people, most people, neither expected Michigan to be in or Iowa. It was Wisconsin's to lose, and they did just that, losing to Minnesota and giving up the ghost. I'll tell you how weak the West is. The weak is so West that the Western champion at 9-2 was a 1-point favorite at Nebraska, who was like 2-9 or something last week. Although Nebraska did set a record with how many 9 one-possession losses this season? Right. Crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to call it to be a fortunate or unfortunate end to the season because, for obvious reasons with Indiana football, and we'll put a cap on this, there's some changes that need to be made, and that's pretty obvious, and I think those changes will be made. Well, one change has already been made, with the OC having been dismissed this week. And so we're just hoping to see that we can get this thing back together in the spring. But with that being said, basketball, last night's game was a thriller. You hear me? It was a thriller. Trace Jackson, man, I tell you, he is a beast.
He is. He's putting up some crazy numbers. He's coming off of a 43-point Assembly Hall record performance, and he backs that up with a road performance of 31 points, 16 rebounds on the road at Syracuse. Man, I don't care who you are, what day it is. Those are big boy numbers.
Yeah, that's not that loss that we had last night. Numerically, it was a loss, no doubt. But I'm going to tell you something. Indiana basketball is going to compete not next year. They're going to compete this year, and then they're also going to compete next year and the year after. I mean, yes, we're going to lose a couple to the NBA. That's obvious, but I'm super excited for Indiana basketball, Indiana women's basketball. I believe that they have their first loss as well.
Yeah, they did. I forget who they lost to, but it was a high-ranking team. They lost. It was a close game, but they have North Carolina State coming in to play here tomorrow. So there's a top 10 matchup, another top 10 matchup that Indiana women get the opportunity to play. So that's a big time game. It'd be interesting to see how that one goes.
Right. Coach, it's just, I mean, it's all around fanfare, all around, excitement for this program, especially in Assembly Hall. Man, I'm telling you, man, I think that I don't know if there are going to be any seats in Assembly Hall here in the next couple of games. When we do have a home game, we're looking really good, man. Really excited about it this year.
I don't disagree with you. They're going to be competing in the Big Ten, no doubt. They're going to be. This is a tournament team. They're going to continue to get better. They're making mistakes right now that are costing them the games. They're not playing badly. They're making mistakes. They shot 40. They shot 40 freaking % from 3-point in the Carrier Dome, which is a horrible shooting background.
Right.
They shot 55% from the field. They shot 74% at the free throw line. They did fine shooting the ball. They just defensively and sloppy with the ball. Those 26 turnovers led to 33 points for Syracuse. And that's just there's your difference right there.
Well, I tell you what. Our men's head basketball coach for men's basketball, he is going to address those. And he said, I like what he says. We're just taking it one game at a time, and gradually you're going to see those mistakes start to disseminate. This guy is phenomenal, man, with his vision and his focus, his ability to get these guys to practice and prepare for a game. So he is going to. I don't think you're going to see 26 turnovers again in IU basketball this year. We can't afford it anyway.
We said that once. It's the second time it's happened. Unfortunately, but hopefully not. That's an unbelievably high number, and they don't play at the tempo. I'm having trouble. Well, last night it was race and trace, 13 between them, and they were getting attacked in the zone a little bit. I think more than they were accustomed to.
Right.
But I saw Trace Jackson Davis dribbling off his foot a couple of times. I'm like, oh man, they're just empty turnovers, man. It reminds me of Todd Leary when he would talk about that. There was a time when Bob Knight was screaming at him to give the ball to his defender. And he literally wanted him to hand the ball to his defender, which he did. and he was like, what? He goes, that's what you might as well. That's what you've been doing all night. So, making those kinds of points. But that's what you're doing when you turn the ball over to 26 times, man. Golly.
Let me tell you something, man. I could see the general, the guru of basketball coaching, man, sitting in his chair at home, literally fuming and foaming at the mouth with those 26 turnovers. And had he been in the Carrier Dome folk, guess what? You might have had a chair go across your floor too.
Boy, that many turnovers very well may have.
He would have. He'd have been livid. But Coach Knight would have been literally livid after about 5 of them. He would have been livid.
Indiana was not the only team playing last night, as I said. We talked earlier about the ACC Big Ten Challenge going on right now. And a big upset last night is Ohio State knocks off number 1 Duke. I watched the end of that game. Pretty good game to watch. 71-66. Ohio State, they were down in that game.
Right.
Purdue got an easy win over Florida State, 93-65. So the Big Ten is up, but there's a lot more games tonight coming up.
And I need to get into that basketball mode. I was in so much in football mode, so I got to switch my attention as well. And I'm excited. Like I said, Indiana's a great basketball team, but we've got other teams out there, man, that are going to make it highly competitive, make the season fun, and make it very, very interesting to see who will end up in March Madness.
Well, speaking of football, they've got a job open right now. And I'll be honest with you, I'm surprised that if other changes were coming as close as we are to the early signing period,
right, that
those changes would have already come. Tom Allen was so quick with cutting Nick Sheridan, which, that was expected, but it kind of wasn't the only one expected. I don't know if it's waiting for to get the offensive coordinator and to allow him to be a part of that, but
I'm surprised that other changes haven't happened already.
Yeah, that's interesting. But like I tell the fans, I mean, you got to be patient with this process. It's going to happen. Tom Allen is obviously going to reevaluate his own self. He's going to reevaluate the decisions that he made last year. He's going to try very, very hard to find out if there are some things he could have done better, and he's going to correct those. I mean, yeah, we know Nick Sheridan had to, to Nick's defense. I mean, Coach Sheridan, man, I mean, my heart goes out to you, and we know that you did the best that you could for Indiana football. But things like this inevitably happen. And so, I mean, the guy was down to his fourth quarterback. And I know it wasn't looking very good when he's on his first quarterback. I mean, come on, man. We got down to Grimmel at the end of the season. I'm not saying that's a bad guy, but I mean, you can't effectively run an offense if the quarterback is the head, the lead. And if you've got inexperienced quarterbacks in there, man, I mean, bad things gonna happen, especially with a freshman quarterback. It's gonna happen, man.
That is true, and you've got new guys coming in, so that's another point. Josh Hoover coming in, so Nick was also the quarterback's coach, and you're going to have a lot of decisions being made by quarterbacks next year. Tuttle and Penix amongst them, so a lot of things riding on this decision.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that's kind of waiting. We've seen some names that have hit the transfer portal already. Jacoby Hewitt, Miles Marshall, kind of a surprise. But I guess you should never be really surprised, because you just never know where there's a better opportunity for someone, and they can find that opportunity now. They don't have to wait. They can find that opportunity right now, whereas it may not be a part of their plan to wait for what's going on at their current location, which obviously that is the case for some of these guys. So, but then you're going to have hopefully that this new offensive coordinator can also bring guys in via the portal, that that'll be someone that they want to play for. You can't wait too long. Like I said, there's so much going on. The coaching carousel is in such flux right now with these big jobs creating a vacuum in essence. When Oklahoma opens and Notre Dame opens because other big jobs have sucked those guys away. Well, those are two big jobs, and that creates a vacuum of other coaches heading and pulling from different places. And it's where the dominoes end up falling. It reminds me back a couple of years ago when we had all this conference realignment.
Right.
Usually coaching changes happens every year, but this is kind of on a different scale, Derrick. This is kind of like when we were having conference realignment. It's kind of an earthquake kind of a thing. It's really shaking up the landscape a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it happens every year. I think the only coaching change you won't see that's not going to surprise anybody is going to be Alabama, and Nick Saban's there to stay. That's obvious. But yeah, when these other jobs come open, man, just like you said, it creates that vacuum. And you got now you go from a big job to a bigger job, but then you got these guys that say I'd even say my homeboy, my best friend, Coach Prime, goes from a Jackson State till he goes to an Oklahoma if he did something like that. Who knows? And you got him.
You think Nick Sheridan's not going to go to Fresno State? He's not going to leave Alabama and go to Fresno State?
No, I said Nick Saban. Oh, yeah, right.
I was kidding.
I know. Yeah, so we'll see what happens. And I guarantee you, Coach Prime's name is going to come up in a lot of these conversations. And I honestly think that he would probably, that's just my thought process, he would probably leave in a couple of years. I don't think he's going to leave. He's got both of his boys there. So what you don't want to do is it's hard for a head coach to come from one system. He brought that system from high school to a HBCU. So to bring it to a D1 Power 5 school is a lot different than bringing it from high school to an HBCU. It's a little different. So,
and with his kids are there, he's definitely not going anywhere. But
right,
is coaching something he wants to continue doing, or is he doing this while his kids are in school?
Let me tell you something.
Have you talked to him at any?
Let me tell you something about Coach Prime. Right from here, folks. The 239 about maybe 100 yards down the street where he grew up. Of course, he don't live in the area no more. But listen, when this guy tells you he's going to do something, he tells you he is going to be a major college coach football, you can stick a pin in it and put money in the bank. It's going to happen. Yes, it is going to happen.
Well, he's already got the commercials with Nick Saban, so he's got that going for him.
And listen, the name recognition, first of all, carries a whole heck of a lot of weight. The guy has no baggage that you can think of. He has no dirt on. He's a clean-cut guy that any program with his ability, his gift of gab, he can recruit. I'm telling you, I think he's the only coach in college football right now that can compete with Nick Saban. Tell me one coach out there that can compete with Nick Saban.
Not on certain levels. That's for dang sure.
Yeah, that's for dang sure, brother.
He's got the ring. Only Nick's got the rings on him. That's the only thing right now. But he's a guy that I think will be successful in wherever he wants to do because he wants to be successful.
Right.
But we'll certainly find out. I think it's break time, so we got to take a break. Okay. Kenny Allen's going to join us next. Looking forward to it. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
If you're in the market for
my guy,
Mr. Kenny Allen.
My guy, Kenny. What's up, baby?
Hey, a bit of everything. How you guys doing? You guys got to get gabbed yourself. I'm like buzzing right now.
Hey, you were on the 86 team, right?
Yeah, 83 to 80, actually 83 till 88.
My one of my former roommates, or two of my former roommates, Vince Fisher, number one. I didn't realize he was the captain in 86, but he was 86 captain, and Jim Sams.
Yes. Remember them both.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day in Houston. I get a chance to talk with you guys and talk a little bit about my alma mater and what's happening in Houston. So it's a good day today.
What do you do in Houston?
I'm the director of Houston Parks and Recreation. So I've been the director here for the past year. I was appointed as interim when our current director left. And after 7 months, the mayor appointed me as the actual permanent director for the fourth largest.
Golly, I was getting ready to say that's like a city. That's almost like an entire city if you put all those parks together.
Oh, absolutely. We have over 381 parks. We service over 39,000 acres throughout the city. And from an amenity standpoint, when you look at our urban forest, our community centers, our pools, our nature centers, our ball fields, it's a huge inventory.
Where were you from originally?
I'm from Houston.
Houston.
Yes. DJ, it's good to see you, man.
Yeah, brother, it's good to see you, man. Hadn't seen you in a while, Kenny, man, doing great things out there, man. And I really appreciate you for coming on the show. And yeah, man, just another one of my buddies from the Mallory era who baptized me into being what a DB is at the collegiate level, because you come from high school and you think you know it all, you think you're gonna lock everybody down, but when you got a guy like Kenny the Cake Man Allen that can run routes on all three levels, it makes you dizzy. You learn, but you're in the Big Ten now, baby.
Yeah, we all had to earn our. I remember the freshman days as well, and the same thing. Well,
yeah, here we go. Coming back from break.
Housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com. Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back on this Wednesday.
Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Derrick Jackson joining us as always. Brought along a good friend, Kenny Allen, former Hoosier, number 83 back in the early 80s for the Bill Mallory area. Kenny, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Jim? It's a pleasure to be with you guys.
Great to have you along with DJ here. How long has it been since you guys talked?
Man, it's been a minute. We've been making an effort to reconnect, with each other. It's for most of the guys that played in the Mallory era. And I tell you, it's good to actually sit down and talk with Kenny instead of having to go up against this guy in practice. I can relax now, but you could never relax with that guy when he was on the football field. You always had that $1 million smile on his face, and listen, this guy's gonna either make me lose a job or he's gonna make me get a job today. But it's been a while, so it's good to hear from you, Kenny, and thank you for being here, brother.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Originally from Houston, Texas, and you're back down there now. How did a kid from Houston, Texas end up at Indiana in the early 80s? Because in the early 80s, Indiana, let's just call it like it was, Indiana sucked.
Well, that's very interesting because in the early 80s, with me being from Houston, football is king here in Texas. And then going to Indiana, primarily a basketball school at the time, I had to weigh my options as a student athlete. And I had a chance to go to a number of schools, but my visit at Indiana, and at the time, I had a chance to interact with Coach White. He was a coach there my freshman year. And Lee Corso, he originally started off recruiting me. But when I took my recruiting visit to IU, just the entire atmosphere, the coaching, the aspirations, and just the offensive schemes and the things that Coach White sold to me, I was done. I mean, in terms of a receiver, in terms of the offense that was coming, and in terms of athletes that were looking at IU at that time while Coach White was recruiting. And then just the school itself. I mean, great school. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do at that time. I know I wanted to get into business or something related. Just didn't know what at the time. But the whole academic support, the team support, and the players that were coming in piqued my interest in IU. And it didn't let me down. Even though we had a coaching change after 1 year, we got Bill Mallory in. He came in guns blazing. He rolled the sleeves up and said, "Hey, we're going to work. If you guys are not here to work, then maybe you need to choose another school." And I am accustomed to work, I'll tell you that much. So it kind of led me to IU. And then a lot of pretty girls around campus, too.
That is amazing because I never thought of the potential of a player that could bridge Lee Corso, Sam White, and Bill Mallory. Yep. And you just did that. And being recruited by Lee Corso at the end of his run, Sam White's when his 1 year run, and then Bill Mallory taking over. But that's pretty amazing to be able to touch on all three of those coaches. Not many players, I guess, can say that, just a couple that were in your class. But wow, what a unique stat that is.
It was because, we were in the middle of transition my freshman year. We did not win a game, not one game, but we competed. We competed in several games. We lost with less than 5 points. So even though, our season didn't indicate the type of team we were at the time, but we were accustomed to fighting. And then when that was under White, when Bill Mallory came in, he really accentuated that. You're going to fight. I don't care, whether it's the first play of the game or the last play. You guys are going to roll your sleeves up and you're going to fight. And we took that. And this regime, we went 6-6 after going 0-11, and then we went 9-3. And then we had a successful stint and going to, while I was there, 3 bowl games. So program turned around, and it was, the entire concept with our team during that time was work hard, roll your sleeves up, and bust everybody in the chops. They wear clothes just like you do, no matter who it is. So, that whole persona just took our work ethic and made us a better team, made us better players, better individuals.
One of our listeners, Sam, asked, where did you play in high school in Houston? He played at Aldine Nimitz in 1971 in Kingwood. And I think my ex went to Kingwood in Kingwood as well. It's weird, odd.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I played at Madison High School, which is basically southeast, southwest Houston.
You know, Indiana recruiting footprint has really, really increased, mainly in Florida and to the south, but now venturing over into Texas. Got a big offensive lineman coming in from Texas, and of course, Josh Hoover, quarterback, coming in from the Dallas area next year. So Texas, one of those places that produces a ton of talent. Have you ever been involved in the recruiting side or said, hey, man, you guys may need to look at this guy? Or how much involved, since the coaching change has been so long ago, is any involvement with Indiana football for you?
It's a little bit early, when Cam was a coach and we made the transition. Houston hotbed, and DJ and I will go back and forth to Texas and Florida about the best players and the most talent. But it is a good mix, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of players that that get overlooked, that are unseen. I mean, we have over 30 school districts in the greater Houston area, and a lot of those players are simply overlooked. So I recommended a few players early on, but as we age and have different interests, that kind of fell off. There's a lot of players around here. I don't follow high school football like I did in the past because I'm really working now. But there's a lot of talent, a lot of teen talent in this area. Definitely, I can confirm that. My son played for Ridgepoint. He's currently at Louisiana Tech. He's a quarterback there, and just going to all the high school games and following his career. I've been at every game practically and a lot of practices. I've seen a lot of players that could definitely go to Power 5 schools that were overlooked. So.
He could have been one of them, man. You should have thrown. Did you mention him to Indiana? Should have thrown up. Mentioned him to Indiana, man.
He was actually being recruited for a short period of time after high school. They took a look at him and decided on other guys. And Aaron Allen, that's my son's name. He decided on Louisiana Tech. But it's very interesting because we just got a new coach, Skip Holtz. No longer the coach there, and Aaron is he's a redshirt sophomore, but he'll graduate in February, and I'm quite sure what we're going to do at this point. But we're taking a look at all options at this point. So he's been a pretty good player at La Tech, on and off the field, starting one week, sharing time another week. But he's a great little player, baseball and football player.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I tell you what, you tell these coaches tonight, you better stop looking at size on these players now. Henry Ruggs has paved the way for these shorter, faster guys getting into the league. And I don't know if you guys follow college football, but the current leading receiver in the United States in all of D1 football and the current record breaker that he just broke records for receiving yards per season, guy by the name of Devin Tompkins at Utah State. Guess what, guys? I coached that guy in high school, Devin Tompkins, because I just got out of coaching probably about 2 years ago. He's a freshman, all the way through his senior year. I coached that guy. He's a little guy, but boy, I'm gonna tell you something. He was sort of like Kenny Allen. Kenny Allen was a shorter guy, but man, Kenny was shifted. We had Jim. Let me tell you something. I remember this. I want to tell this story real quick. We're getting ready to play Florida State in the All-American Bowl. Coach Pesky was wide receivers coach. He sat in the room. And he talked about Deion Sanders, who we played against at Florida State at the time. What? Yeah, he was good. He was very good. And you use extreme caution when you throw his way. But listen, we've got not only Kenny Allen, we've got Ernie Jones, okay, on the other side. We've got Derrick Eddings, okay. We've got Gary Good. I don't care who you are. You can't cover all those guys at the same time. Okay, how good you are.
Right.
So
it was that DJ because between Ernie, Stacy,
yeah,
Buford, and myself during our era, we're all under 6 feet.
Right.
They called us the Smurfs, but you count one. If we're not tackled, you count two. If we're not tackled, count three. It's a touchdown.
Right. Yeah, it was, man. We had the best core in that year, Jim. When Kenny and Stacy and Ernie, Darrell Eddings and Tony Buford, Gary Good, we probably, I'm sure we had the best receiver combination in the country that year. We really did. I mean, those guys were phenomenal, man. I mean, again, going up every day and practice with those guys. And I remember, like I said, when I was a freshman, one interesting fact, for the fans to know, is me and Kenny got into a fight my freshman year. I'm trying to bully this guy, right? We freshmen, so you come in, man. Kenny grabbed me by my face mask, and I grabbed him by his. We kind of slung each other around on the ground, and I can remember Coach Pesky saying, "That's a vet, DJ. You better know what you're doing with Kenny." I never forget him, boy. I never forget it. It was so funny, man.
Yeah, it was our first true introduction to each other, and
exactly. Yeah, I remember that. Yep. Kenny looked at me. Nobody wasn't backing down. Kenny was like, what? Man, you just got your freshman. Chill out.
It was very competitive between the DBs and the receivers, and we just simply made each other better.
Right.
Our theme was to come out and make you guys look bad.
Exactly.
Vice versa, but it made us better as a receiving corps and a DB. In terms of defense, I mean, I loved practicing against you guys. Right. My freshman year, I was on the scout team. I got redshirted, but it was my mission to go against the ones and get better and make them better. So, we carried that on, and that made the whole team better, to be honest. So I appreciated that competition, and I always will remember it. And then
right.
Former player Kenny Allen from Indiana joining us now. What was it like going back to that All-American Bowl? You guys had struggled, and now you reach bowl eligibility. That was the first bowl game under Bill Mallory, to my knowledge, right? It's in '86, I think.
Yeah.
So they had been blanked probably since the Holiday Bowl, probably. So, man, you guys get to a bowl game. You're playing Florida State. Had to be big for DJ, of course, playing against Deion Sanders and for the high school teammate of DJ's. But and Deion wasn't the Deion yet that he was going to be, but he was still Deion. What was that experience like, you guys? Because Florida State, this was Bowden. This is Bobby Bowden, man. This was during his reign of excellence. So that had to be pretty cool to all of a sudden be up there with a Florida State and Deion and Bobby Bowden and all that.
Yeah, it was.
Well, They had AT, who was recruited by Florida State, that came to Indiana, and they had Sammy Smith, who was their leading, running back. So that created competition right there. Then, of course, the whole Deion thing created competition. So yeah, it was a situation to where, man, this was big stage. It put Indiana on the map. Playing against, one of the, college gurus, coaches in football, playing against Bobby Bowden. But then, all of the focus was on, hey, you don't want to throw this guys. Well, and Dave Snell was our quarterback. But again, like I said, when you can't cover Ernie Jones at X and cover Kenny Allen at Y and Tony Buford at Z, whatever. You can't cover all those guys at the same time. So we approached that game just like we approached every football game that year. We can beat these guys. The result wasn't like we wanted it, but we could beat these guys. So that was our approach.
Yeah.
And to further bolster that, you're throwing those names out along with Kenny. Someone asked, how good was Ernie Jones? He was a bad man.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think I was the first one that jumped out the gate in terms of in terms of really getting the looks. That year I caught like 55 passes for about 1,000 yards. I set a few records, but I was a hot guy under the quarterback that we had at the time. And then not far behind was Ernie, Stacy, Tony, D. Eddings, and all those guys. If they got those looks, they could have very well did the same thing I did that year. That was that 86 year. And then not close behind were all those guys. I mean, Coach Mallory felt comfortable with playing any of us on any down. So we had an opportunity to interchange a lot. But going into that Florida State game, like DJ said, I mean, we both had that mentality. You know, we can beat anybody. We can beat anybody. If we play our game, we're not going to back down. We're going to bite back. That was just our mentality. And having a group of guys and being surrounded by a receiving corps, we just made everybody better. Our day-to-day effort, not only on the field, but in the weight room, while we were running, everything was competitive. I mean, I was in a 40-yard dash with Stacy, Ernie, and Leonard Bell at the time. The slowest time in that 40 was a 4.5. So it'll tell you a little bit about the speed. We all ran good routes. We all had good hands. But Ernie, he kind of jumped out. I mean, he jumped out 2 seasons where he was the man. I mean, I didn't mind being a decoy. And vice versa when we had to, but I shared. Ernie stayed on the field quite a bit in those latter years, and Tony and I kind of shared time. And Stacy graduated before everybody because he went on to the Saints when we had that season where players were on strike, so he decided to leave. But we had plenty of guys to fill shoes when guys were either hurt or out. But it was a great group of guys to be around.
Yeah, and it was the beginning of a hell of a run under Bill Mallory. And again, when you were being recruited, Indiana was in such flux, but I guess they did have the good fortune of having a Sam Weich come in, which kind of bridged that gap coaching wise between him and Mallory, and then Coach Mallory. But what was the belief? Because you had yourself and you had Ernie Jones here. And to get an Anthony Thompson to go with that, because they went from not being very good to all of a sudden being pretty damn good.
Well, you got to remember my statement that 0-11 season, we were fighting. We were in quite a few games. So we had some talent, but I think Weich, when he came in, a lot of guys committed. And when Coach Mallory came in, we didn't leave. Some guys may not have come, but the guys that were there stayed. So that was
talk about today and your son, the situation he's in. Had that been today, that Indiana team probably would have been, I don't want to say decimated, but it would have taken a gigantic hit because as we've seen now with Indiana, and before we knew that there was probably a change coming, we've seen several players hit the transfer portal, as your son is going to be looking at himself.
Most definitely. I mean, with a change in NCAA rules where players can play immediately, that makes a difference. I have to sit out here. And, when there's a coaching change prevalent, like right now with my son, I mean, Louisiana Tech made it quick. Right after our last game, played right. 2 days later, we had a new coach. So comes a decision on accepting the new system and looking at the new coach. And then if you're going to get into the portal, it's really about who's interested. And then you can make a decision from there. So players have options, but coaches have options as well. You know, this whole change in rules, let's just say I'm a little perplexed about it because it gives a player an ability to decide what's going to be best for him in his situation and his family, but it also makes it very competitive, especially at the quarterback position. We brought in Louisiana Tech, brought in 2 fifth-year seniors back to back. Myself expected to start both years. So he had to share time and basically play when he could, but that's all across the country with every coach, every team, every player. So, Jim, you're right. At the time when Mallory left, when Weich left and Mallory came in, that team probably would have been dissipated because we definitely had some talented players.
I got one quick question, if I could, Jim, before we go to break. And this is a thought. How much this NIL is in effect now? How much money do you think a player like an Anthony Thompson and an Ernie Jones and a Kellen Allen would have made back in the day if we had those rules?
Well, that's another great benefit.
Yeah, it is.
Those, you talk about personalities along with playing. You know, when you talk about sponsorships, when you talk about brand, I mean, you know, DJ, we were not quiet. You know,
we weren't quite bad. We weren't quite brutal.
Probably would have back then. We probably would have made a couple of hundred.
100, yeah, no, a couple of 100,000. I mean, I'm just saying, you know, you guys were good, man. They're paying these guys ungodly amounts of money. AT probably would have been making more than the head coach back then.
More than likely.
Kenny Allen, I cannot thank you enough, man. I look forward to having you back on. I want to talk more about the fact of now you being a father to a son that is looking through all this as well. Very, very interesting. But great reminiscing as well. We'll do that again. But thanks you so much for coming on. We appreciate you and you taking the time.
Yeah, you're so welcome. When DJ, you know, when he. You know, we talked through a group chat, so to speak, and we've also, you know, text each other back and forth. But when he presented the idea, I was like, yeah, great. You know, a lot of guys haven't had a chance to really talk to. So for those that are listening, hey, go Hoosiers. Wish you guys well, and God bless you guys. I'm so proud of my teammates, what they've become. It's just great stories from this podcast. Thank you, guys.
You bet. The great Kenny Allen, former wide receiver for Indiana, joining us here on the program. And Derrick Jackson with us as well. Coming up next, the great Bob Kravitz and Rick Bozich. Stay tuned. We're back with that and more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, that was awesome.
Yeah,
hey,
I think we'll have the big one nailed down next week, Jim. I'll let you know. Okay, I'm working on that as we speak, brother.
We'll see you, DJ.
I'm gonna have to have him on again. Hey guys, how are you all, Bob and Rick?
Hi, Derrick. We are tremendous. Well, I can't speak for Rick, but I'm tremendous. How are you doing, Rick?
I'm good, Bob. How are you?
I'm good, man.
That was Kenny Allen, guys. He played in the early '80s under Mallory. His son is a quarterback for Louisiana Tech, who apparently is pretty decent, but he's going to be probably hitting the transfer portal. It's the way it sounds.
Does he want to play in the Big Ten?
I asked him that. I said, but yeah, Indiana's quarterback situation is going to be all kinds of what's going on. But
what hat do you have on today, Rick or Bob?
This would be the California Golden Seals. I'm trying to straighten it out. I don't know what I'm doing.
What a good one.
California Golden Seals. Remember the white skates? They were owned by Charlie Finley.
Oh, wow.
Man.
They had white skates.
That's why you got the green and yellow.
Yeah. Charlie's the same colors as the A's. Yeah.
Did he have them grow handlebar mustaches?
That team was known for its facial hair. And that's about it. They sucked. They weren't very good. But I just love these hats, man. I told my daughter, get me more hats.
Marge Schott did not allow facial. Or no, it was the entire Cincinnati Reds organization, was it?
The Reds and the New York Yankees.
Is that still? It's still a rule, isn't it?
Yankees still don't. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when the Reds Johnny Damon went there. He had to shave everything off.
Well, I remember back in the day in the Reds press area, they had a beer tap.
Really?
You just walk up and get a beer.
I'm surprised Marge paid for that.
Well, that did not last long once she took over.
Right.
That was
the
rest of the story.
I remember going there and all they had for dinner was hot dogs, and you had to pay through the nose for them. Thank you, Marge.
She was one of the worst owners in the history of pro sports.
Yes, she was. She was the Rick Riley story about her was just phenomenal. Many years ago in SI.
21 Honda Passport. Also 0% APR financing over 48 months and $0 down. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. It is Wednesday, and you know what that means. It is the day of greatness. Rick Bozich, WDRB.com. Bob Kravitz from The Athletic joins us. Guys, how are you?
We are fabulous. Rick, is that an old White Sox hat?
Yeah, it's White Sox spring training hat from like 2005 or 6.
Very cool. Yeah. I remember the days we moved to Chicago when I was a junior in high school, and I went to Comiskey a few times. And I remember Richie Zisk and Ralph Garr. Was it Ralph Garr?
The Roadrunner, yeah.
The Roadrunner. I mean, they were a fun team, though. The Southside Hitmen.
Yep. Claude L. Washington, Oscar Gamble with the
Yes.
world's largest afro.
Exactly.
Exactly. So when is this? Like the late 70s?
77 was the first year of the Southside Hitmen.
Yep. And that's when we moved to Chicago.
You started mentioning names that I actually remember as a kid, even though I was not a fan of either of those teams. I remember them quite well. That's when my Reds were rolling, baby. The big red machine.
And I don't want to talk about the Mets.
That's when they were starting to head the wrong direction.
Yeah, and you know it's funny. I talk all the time about the difference in me being, and you'll know this very well, Rick. Difference in me being a Reds fan versus a Cardinals fan. Growing up in Southern Indiana near Louisville, which is kind of a dividing line for the Cardinals and the Reds. It is almost dead center, and the Reds were on radio there. I think it was on Wacky AM radio maybe, and also the big red machine was rolling at the time in the late 70s. And so the Reds were on all the time. Joe Nuxall and Marty Brenneman. And it was just like 5 years later that A. Ray Smith moved the AAA team of the Cardinals into Louisville. And man, that was a big deal because anybody that was everybody for the Cardinals, you end up seeing in Louisville. I mean, there were so many big names that were coming through there, but it was that 5-year difference in time. And I think in me being a Reds fan versus a Cardinals fan. And I kind of wish it would have went the other way because the Cardinals have sustained it a lot better along the way, but it is what it is. And that's life, right?
Could be worse. You could be a Mets fan.
Second year the team was here, they drew 1 million fans. And you look at some of the players they had in the early day. I mean, Willie McGee, Andy Van Slyke, Todd Worrell, Terry Pendleton, Vince Coleman. I mean, it was incredible, the players that came through here in the 80s.
Yeah, it was nuts. And I mean, in minor league baseball, it was not a draw then. And A. Ray turned it into a draw at a crap stadium.
Yeah, he did. He was quite a salesperson.
I ended up having the All-Star game down there one time. That was fun as well. But so reminiscing, fun days. Basketball, Indiana, of course, last night, their first challenge at Syracuse. Didn't do too well for quite a while. Showed moxie in the comeback, but 26 turnovers and 33 points off of those turnovers. Just ugly when you look at how well they did so many other things.
I like their fight. I think a year ago, they probably would have tucked tail and gone into the fetal position and just gotten run out of the building. That said, Syracuse lost to Colgate. They lost to Auburn. They lost one other.
They lost to Colgate at home and
VCU. So this is not the beast. This is not the old Syracuse team. So yeah, I mean, I have mixed feelings about it. I think we started to see a bit of what Miller Kopp is about. I really like Parker Stewart as a player. I think TJD has really advanced his game. I still don't know if he can hit from the perimeter, but if he's going to score 30, 40 points a game from the post, then why the hell not? So yeah, I thought there were some good things and some bad things. And, if you want to be an elite team, which they're not, which they're far away from, you can't lose to Syracuse.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a weird game. They had those 26 turnovers, and Thompson and Trace Jackson Davis had half of them.
Right.
Your front court players can't be turning the ball over like that. The last possession, I still don't understand if that was Woodson's call or Tamar Bates just freelanced and decided to try and trap that guy in the backcourt.
What was that about, man? Why were they trapping?
I don't know. It didn't work, and it cost them the game because if you're going to trap, you better make sure you trap and make the guy call timeout or force a turnover. They broke the trap and did a give and go, and then the guy was going for a layup, and they obviously had to foul him. But like Bob said, last year, once they got down by 18, they would have lost by 30. Right. So this team did show some good things. They obviously can shoot from the perimeter better. They've got some firepower at more spots from just Jackson Davis. And Jackson Davis made 2 free throws when he had to make them. And that wouldn't have happened last year either. But, doesn't matter if it's Tom Crean, Archie Miller, or Mike Woodson. They ain't going in the Carrier Dome and beating Syracuse. It's interesting. Indiana's played Syracuse 3 times in the ACC Big Ten Challenge, and all 3 have been in the Carrier Dome. You wonder if they'll ever get Jim Boeheim in Assembly Hall.
That would certainly be interesting. I think they've lost to him, 6 times, or every time they played.
The only time they beat him was in the national championship game ever.
When it counted,
Bob
baby.
Knight's in the Hall of Fame.
They got some work to do. They obviously have seen that, and we've talked about the depth of Indiana. Well, I think you saw they're maybe not as deep as you think, because when they needed to rely on Jordan Geronimo, he couldn't be counted on. Tamar Bates didn't stand up. Christian Lander was forced into it because you had 3 guards basically that fouled out, and he didn't do a terrible job. But you could see that they were definitely missing somebody to do something different with the offense at that time. It got stagnant, and Xavier Johnson's got to learn to quit getting into foul trouble.
Yeah,
I mean, that last possession at the end of the first overtime with Lander was horrific.
What was that?
Yeah, I mean, they did. That's some of those. That play and the last play of the game were just inexplicable. I don't know what they're doing, but it wasn't the right thing to do. And you're right. I mean, you can't keep playing Trace Jackson Davis as many minutes as he's logging. What do you have, 37 or 38 against Marshall? And last night he had, 45? Miller Kopp played 48 minutes last night.
Wow.
It's a long season. You're going to have to develop some of these guys off the bench and I guess they need Galloway back. And
that's against a team that is not deep themselves. As a matter of fact, was known to have less depth than Indiana. And so they kind of spread their minutes out, I'd say a little bit more than Indiana did. You had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You had a 6th guy that played 19 minutes, another guy that played 11 minutes. Indiana, you had 2 guys like there, but yeah, their depth is not what we thought it would be. Especially Rob Finney. Did he come back too soon being out from injury? Because he only played 14 minutes and fouls out.
Yeah, that was not a great night for Rob Finney. I mean, I just think this is who he is. He's going to have a few moments where you think, God, if he could just do this all the time. And then he's going to revert back to form. I just think, correct me if you guys think I'm wrong, but I just see Indiana being a middle of the pack Big Ten team that hopefully reaches the NCAA tournament. But they got a long ways to go.
Yep. I think they can finish 5th or 6th if they continue to improve. 5th and 6th is a good look for them, because there's some teams in the Big Ten we didn't know how it was going to play out. Obviously, Purdue looking like the class of the conference now, but Michigan, if they get better again, Ohio State, obviously, after knocking off number 1 Duke last night, is unranked, but a team that obviously can play. So Illinois probably going to come back around with Kofi Coburn. There's a lot of teams in the Big Ten that probably going to get a little bit better as well. So Indiana opens up Big Ten play against Nebraska at home Saturday. So they'll get their first conference game and chance to find out this Saturday.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How about Purdue? If I can, I know, I don't know how much you like talking about Purdue on this show, but
number one team in
the country right now. I mean,
that's another thing. Yeah. Is Boiler going to be number one?
Yeah. Well, how can they not be? How could they not be with Duke getting beat?
Oh, there's people out there that are going to still vote for Gonzaga. The national media people are in love with the Zags.
Oh, okay. All right.
I've been voting Purdue number one now 2 weeks in a row.
Have you?
By myself.
I saw that on your vote, your last week's vote. And
they're good. They got it all. They got shooters. They got Ivy who can attack the rim. They got big men. They play hard. I mean,
great coach.
Good. I mean, Florida State's a decent team, and they ran him out of the gym. Leonard Hamilton was effusive in his praise of the Boilermakers.
He was. They've got everything you need. They got everything, and I wonder if it's going to be kind of like a Virginia story where, they got beat by the Mean Green of North Texas in the first round last year, the way Virginia got beat by the 16th seed, and then went on to win the national title the next season. Of course, beating Purdue in the Elite Eight in overtime. So I just see Purdue as a team that's just, I don't see a weakness. And when when you're redshirting a top 40 prospect, a recruit, that you got crazy depth. I mean, they can beat you in so many ways.
You talk about the Big Ten right now. So are we heading towards the semi-opening of the conference season? You get to play a couple of games. Earlier talking about Indiana's lack of having a challenging schedule up to this point, Rick. Last night was their first challenge, and it was, one they did not meet, but also one that was not very challenging. It was a team that had lost to the teams that we had mentioned to. So now they've got to start going into Big Ten. They've got to play at Wisconsin in a couple of games. So that's going to be a challenge. Is this team just not quite where they need to be yet? Are they ready for Big Ten play?
That's a fair point. All I'd say, and there's a lot of coaches that do it that way. You look at the last 4 or 5 teams that Kentucky's played, they haven't played even any teams ranked in the top 200 the last 4 or 5 games. So I understand what Woodson's trying to do to get his, and I don't think Archie did it very well last year. Use some of these early games to experiment and get other guys some playing time. So, first they got to beat Nebraska. I mean, Nebraska's at home on Saturday. That's a game they can't afford to lose. So I don't think the schedule really has been an issue. I just think last night Syracuse, even though it's not a great Syracuse team, they're a desperate team because they knew they lost 3 games, and I felt like they had to really win that game last night. And going up and playing in the Carrier Dome against a team that plays that zone is just different. Even if it's not a Syracuse team that's very good, it's still a different thing to do. And give them credit, after a terrible first half, they did adjust and attack the zone pretty successfully in the second half. More concerning to me is it's 2 games in a row the defense hasn't been great. I mean, Marshall shredded them for a good part of the game last Saturday, and Syracuse shredded them last night. And the guy I think the guy who beat him wasn't Buddy Boeheim, who's a all ACC player. It was Jimmy Boeheim.
Jimmy, yeah.
He had a career high. He had 4 threes. He'd only made 6 in 6 games all year. I mean, they didn't guard that dude.
No, they didn't. And Syracuse is a team that does not shoot the ball well, period, from the free throw line, from the 3-point line, anywhere. And they shot 38% from behind the arc last night against Indiana. So to back up your point, Indiana, on the other hand, shot 40% as well on like 27 attempts. So their shooting woes, it's like they have everything they need to have, but they're missing some key points, taking care of the ball and perimeter defense. Those seem to be the 2 things that are kind of standing out right now.
I mean, to me, it's still guard play. I mean, to be a really good team, you have to have guards who are just, they can attack. They're strong with the basketball. They're confident. They can defend like crazy. And, Indiana's not quite there yet. They don't. I mean, Xavier Johnson's had some good games, but he's gotten in foul trouble a couple times. Stewart had a really good game last night. Offensively, defensively, he was just okay. Fennessy's been hurt, and he's still inconsistent. He had that one nice drive last night when he finally was aggressive and got to the rim and scored. Lander's still not there. I mean, he's not. He's better, but that possession at the end of the first overtime was not good. So until you get really elite guards, that's what you need, in my opinion, to be an elite team.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. I'm thinking early prediction of, can the Big Ten get 9 teams in this year? Man, there's a lot of teams in the Big Ten. And I'm not saying that they're great, but they're going to be good enough.
Aren't they? They're up 6-2 in the challenge with 6 games to go tonight, I think.
Yeah, that's another thing I was looking at. A little surprising. I think a lot of people thought Indiana was going to get it, or the Big Ten was going to have it handed to them. But some tough games tonight. Louisville is at Michigan State. That should favor Michigan State, as they're a 4-point favorite there. Nebraska's on the road at North Carolina State. That's going to be a tough ask of the Cornhuskers. This could be a good game. Virginia Tech at Maryland. Maryland's just a 1-point favorite, but that should be an interesting game to watch. Wisconsin travels to Georgia Tech. The game of the night, of course, Michigan, number 24 Michigan at unranked North Carolina. Michigan's is a 2.5-point favorite, though. Here of late, they've not been playing well.
And they've lost 2, and they barely beat Tarleton State. Well, of course, Tarleton State barely beat Gonzaga. Almost lost to Tarleton State, and that's Billy Clyde Gillespie's team.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow. Michigan, one of those teams that everybody thought was just going to be the runaway leader, not runaway leader with Purdue, but thought that they were still the class of the conference. And obviously, not only are they not the class of the conference, they're kind of – I looked at the standings a minute ago, which it's way early, I know. But if you actually go by them, they're at 3rd from the bottom in the Big Ten standings right now at 4-2.
Purdue's got everybody back from a veteran team. Michigan lost what was Wagner's brother? They lost the point guard who transferred in last year.
Oh, the kid from Columbia.
Yeah, they lost another guy who was really good. I mean, they lost 3 or 4 really good players. They got 2 5-star recruits, and still they have Dickinson. But I think Michigan will be better as the year goes on. But Michigan is not at Purdue's level right now. Purdue's, I mean, they got the whole team back. Plus, they added Caleb First.
Yeah.
Louisville at Michigan State tonight. A couple of Indiana guys on that team. That should be an interesting game. I'm sure that's one you'll be watching closely, Rick.
Yes, sir. Louisville opened with 4 games at home and lost to Furman and almost got beat by Mike Davis in Detroit. And then they went to the Bahamas and knocked off Mississippi State and Maryland convincingly. So tonight is Chris Mack's first game back from a 6-game suspension. So we'll see what they do. Last time they played the Spartans in the Big Ten ACC Challenge, they went up there and won in overtime.
Also, Indiana obviously looking for an offensive coordinator, Bob, and
I'm not available.
I was going to say anybody available, because
I think that
this is kind of a bad
disaster.
time. The coaching carousel, I just said this earlier, right now seems to be similar to when we had the conference realignment a couple years ago again. It's gone berserk. And some of these jobs, Oklahoma and Notre Dame, that's kind of creating a vacuum in the coaching industry right now. Not a good time for someone like Tom Allen to be looking for an OC, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, it is a strange time. I mean, I cannot remember in my lifetime watching a team with such high expectations pratfall like this. You know, with Penix back, and granted he was not the same quarterback, but it just shows how fragile this program is. That, you know, we thought that the days of being uncompetitive, non-competitive, whatever the word is, we thought those were over. They didn't score 100 points this year, right? I don't think they scored 100 points, or maybe they didn't score 100 in the conference season. But, in the conference season. That's astounding to me, you know. And look, if you can't block it up, you can't play. And their offensive line was just a disaster. No other way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, it's across the board. You look at, even by the end of the year, the defense which we sat next to each other, I think 3 in a row at the Cincinnati game, and their defense was terrific in that game. And then McFadden gets thrown out of the game, and that was like the pinprick, and all the air went out of the balloon for the rest of the year, and it never came back.
Came back.
The defense wasn't good. They were outscored by almost 100 points as a team the last 3 games against Rutgers, Minnesota, and Purdue. They weren't competitive in any of the games.
I saw a lot of give up. I mean, I don't think there's any way you could objectively watch those games and not say there was a whole lot of give up. And I understand, they're young kids, and there was such high expectations, and you're going through this quarterback carousel, and you're down to Gemmel.
Walk-on quarterback, walk-on running back at the end of the year.
Right. Of course, Purdue, they had a walk-on quarterback in Aiden O'Connell, and they did just fine. So, he's been there, he's shown that he can do it. But, just a really disappointing season for IU. And I thought Purdue overachieved, and they're going to get to a bowl game. And, all of a sudden you're starting to hear the Jeff Brom rumors again.
To where?
Well, Bob, that's the very question I have for you next. I've always felt like Jeff Brom's dream job.
Yeah. That's what you're hearing.
I'm thinking Jeff Brom's dream job has always
Notre
been
Dame.
Notre Dame. Because there's this symbiotic connection from Notre Dame to the city of Louisville, going back to the Golden Boy. Maybe before that, I don't know. But back at the old Flagey High School, there's just a Catholic community in Louisville. And it's just always, I've just seen that as I thought that's one of the reasons probably why he didn't come back to Louisville the last time, was that he had eyes on Notre Dame, and then looked like Brian Kelly was not going to leave. Now he does leave. I don't know if he's had enough success at Purdue for them to, but everybody else has looked at him. But Rick, you probably know this better than anyone.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's went to Trinity High School here in town. He's from a very strong Catholic family that has admiration for Notre Dame. But Jeff and Brian both turned down the chance to play at Notre Dame to go to Louisville. His mom and dad live here. Most of the stuff I've read, though, about Notre Dame is focused on Luke Fickell and their defensive coordinator, Marcus Freeman, and maybe one other name that's thrown in there. I don't know. I'm not sure that after back-to-back mediocre seasons and an 8-4, that's going to excite Notre Dame fans.
Yeah, it's going to be a hard sell. It would be a hard sell. But, yeah,
he's a good coach. I mean, I think he could do it.
I think he could, too.
If he goes up there, he gets more recruiting juice, but I think that'd be a little bit of hard sell to an unreasonable fan base that's pretty angry right now because of what Brian Kelly did to him.
Yeah. So how many teams are we going to have in the playoff that don't have a coach? That's unbelievable to me. It's just unbelievable.
It's amazing. I actually think in some ways this could turn out to Indiana's advantage, though. There's so many dudes getting fired out there who are offensive coordinators at school where the head coach got fired that there's a lot of guys available.
Right.
You should be able to find somebody.
Yeah, there's guys going everywhere. And I've always been amazed, though, when a coach does leave, when they don't take very many people with them. I'm like, well, why the hell did you hire them on your staff to begin with if you didn't want them with you? But it's just, I'm sure there's a lot of different reasons for that. But Rick, I know you've got the Louisville, Michigan State game coming up that you're going to be covering. Anything else that you're working on?
I think I'm coming to Bloomington Saturday for the Nebraska game. Kentucky's off this Saturday and Louisville's down at NC State. So I think I'm going to come up for the Big Ten Open, and we'll see if they can bounce back from the Syracuse loss and get off to a better start in the Big Ten before they head to Wisconsin, which were any of us alive the last time Indiana won a basketball game at Wisconsin?
I do not believe. I'm 100 years old, and I would say no.
I was, because I think wasn't Bob Knight like 31-0 against them at one time?
He was. Yeah, he was. But have they won in the Kohl Center? I'm not. I always have. They ever won in the Kohl Center? I don't think they have they?
I don't think so. If they have, it's been once. I'm going to have to keep my book close at hand. I've got it in my bag.
And
but
the Badgers, with their 27-year-old point guard Brad Davidson, didn't they just win the Maui Invitational in Las Vegas?
Yep, they sure did. And we're unranked still, which is amazing to me. I'm like, but and everybody was complaining about Indiana not being ranked, which I noticed though that Ken Palm had them right at the same place that the AP had them, and then boom, and then so they lose a game to a team they shouldn't have lost. So, Bob, what are you working on, man, with the Athletic?
Well, I had a column today on the sad ambivalence of the Pacers fan. They are 28th or 28th in the league in attendance. And I think that their TV situation where you can't get it on any of the streaming apps is absolutely killing them. I think they're out of sight, out of mind. Then I might go up to Purdue tomorrow, check out Matt Painter, and they got their game on Friday against Iowa. But I am going up to Grand Rapids this weekend to hook up with the one and only Lance Stevenson, who's playing in the G League up there. And he was always such a cult hero here, and one of the more fun, curious human beings I've ever come across. And so I'm going to hang out with him. And I'm doing a story on with the New England Patriots coming in here in 2 weeks. I'm doing a story on the fake punt from a couple of years ago that went terribly wrong with Chuck Pagano. Remember, they had that play. It was probably the worst play ever, where they had 3 guys line up on one side of the field and hike the ball against 6 guys, and poor Colt Anderson got annihilated. So I'm talking to Pagano about one of the more embarrassing moments in Colts history. So I think that might be fun. So that's what I'm doing.
Plenty there to keep you busy at the Athletic. Make sure if you're not a subscriber, be one. I am, and I know they've got lots of deals going on.
They do.
I grew up reading Rick in the Courier, but he's with WDRB.com, which I'd always think WDRB has done what very few other stations have been able to do. And you and your writing cohort down there, Eric Crawford, have done a masterful job. It's like the newspaper has been moved over to that side. And there's not very many that have been able to make that transition that well, but you guys have absolutely killed it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And Eric's on his way he just tried to call me 5 minutes ago. He's in the car driving to East Lansing for the Michigan State Louisville game.
Really?
Well, as you know, Jim, I got hired at WTHR basically because of the success that that Rick and Eric had. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out long term the way I would have hoped. But you live and you learn, or you learn.
Well,
nothing.
I think part of that is probably because you didn't have the people that Rick and Eric were fortunate to work under. I think that's a big part of it.
Management.
I didn't ever work at that station in Louisville, but I worked at another one, but always heard great things about how that station was run. And I grew up as a kid I remember when they first came on the air. They just did different stuff and they've continued to do that. But through the sports, it's amazing that it's like it's great to be able to have this stuff to continue to read there. But so they screwed up on your side, Bob. But
well, maybe I screwed up too. Who knows? It's water under the bridge, and I'm very happy at the Athletic. So we move on.
Good place to be.
And we have you.
It's a great site.
It's a great site.
Absolutely.
It really is. I mean, for people, I would, if I wasn't working there, I would have a subscription because, I mean, you get, unfortunately, we don't have a dedicated person on the Pacers or on college basketball. We did. And then during the pandemic, we had to cut part of our staff, and we lost those 2 guys who are both very talented and very good and very nice people. Hopefully that will be rectified as we continue to grow. But, that's problematic. But if you want the best Pacers coverage in town, and if you still enjoy reading me every now and again, and if you follow a team from out of town, I mean, if you're a Bengals fan, We got great Bengals writers, and you can get them. You can get Bears coverage. You can get whatever the hell you want. So go into my column and subscribe, and that way I'll be able to pay my daughter's college loans.
and that wedding bill.
Oh yeah, that too. Thanks for reminding me.
Guys, I will Rick, I'll see you Saturday. I know that shirt probably didn't even fit, did it? Too small for you. Even though it was
I haven't tried it on yet, but that's back hanging in the room. If not, I'll give it to my son.
I was thinking that because I know he's another region rat, a White Sox fan. So, guys, thank you so much. Have fun this week. I'll see you on Saturday, Rick. Look forward to it, guys.
Sounds good.
Thanks, guys.
Go California Golden Seals.
There you go. Make sure you give them both a follow. Bob Kravitz with The Athletic. If you're not a subscriber, become one. I am. Also, Rick Bozich at WDRB.com. He covers everything, man. If you want great writing, former IU graduate, has been covering Indiana since 76. So we got lots more coming up on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration.
If by lots more you mean 2 minutes.
The show's over in 2 minutes?
2 minutes after the commercial's done.
Holy crap. Well, you
so
know
I'm
what?
going to talk to them. I know you like taking them long. So
that's but see, I don't understand why. I
you
don't
can
think
do
people
that.
give it.
That's fine.
Yes, people
But
don't care.
You have to remember to do it. That's the thing. You have to remember that you still need to leave 2 to 3 minutes to wrap up. You have to remember to do that.
Well, yes, and that's where you'll if I get into an emergency situation, you'll just have to flash up on the screen or something.
Sure.
Hey, let's flash up the promo for the Hoosier.
Shoot, I don't think I typed it in yesterday. What is it, real quick?
It's that 2021.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. $20.21 for the year. Is that all it is? Until when?
Just until December 3rd.
All right. I can bring Keegan in for a sec. Keegan, I know we haven't brought you in a while. We've had a lot of people shuffling through.
No, that's fine.
You've been able to see a lot of what I've been doing. I mean, I know you can't really know what it's like until you actually do it, but how do you feel just from watching them?
It looks really repeatable.
That's good.
Kind of, and
it is.
Yeah, just when you're on break, there needs to be a certain setup, and then when you're live, there needs just 3.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's other stuff like clips. I don't know if he'll be able to help with clips.
I showed him clips a little bit, and he said he's going to check his editor out and see if it's something he could do. I'm kind of coming up with a contingency plan to maybe prep some things ahead of time. Not clips, obviously, because that has to happen. But like, if we know who's coming on for sure Wednesday when he's going to be here, I can prep thumbnails if we know what the show is going to be like. If we can,
I was going to say thumbnails are something you can probably do in advance or whatever.
As long as it has to be accurate though. But anyway, here we go. Coming back. You'll have, like I said, 2 minutes.
And it's any place you podcast or on this station.
Who we got tomorrow?
If we're not on the station where you live,
a lot,
we should
I think.
For Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
This segment is brought to you by Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday. Man, it has been a fun one. Got picked up there at the end. Thanks to Derrick Jackson, of course, bringing along Kenny Allen. Great reminiscing with him. Of course, Bob and Rick Bob Kravitz, Rick Bozich. That is always just a blast talking with them about any and everything possible. Tomorrow, plenty more. Matt Taylor, Chris Denari, Dustin Schutte. Am I missing anything, John?
Nedrip now as well.
Kyle Nedrip. Holy crap. We got to put the Indiana High School football championships to bed. Basketball has started. Man.
Less than a minute.
All kinds of stuff going on. Make sure you check out thehoosier.com, Indiana Rivals. You've got 2 days left of a deal of the year, $20.21 subscription for the entire year. That's valid until the 3rd, it looks like. So jump on there and get that. Get them as a friend for somebody. Great Christmas gift. Thanks to our friends at Andy Moore Honda. Make sure you, if you're looking for a deal for a car, Andy Moore Honda Bloomington's got it. $0 down, 0% APR financing. Don't forget our good friends at Southern Stone Restaurant Monday night at 7:05 inside Indiana basketball with Don Fisher and Mike Woodson. Remax Realty, Cheryl Sizemore. If you're looking for a home in the Indy area, you need her 2 decades of experience. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Man, what a fun day this was. And you can tell when they go fast, it's a blast. But big thanks to you guys. Lots of comments. We appreciate it. Robert the Truth Carter promptly points out they are 6-1 now. That's right. You got the unfortunate text from Ken Palm last night with however many undefeated teams that are left. So that was Indiana. So until tomorrow afternoon, I appreciate everybody. Thanks to you. Thanks to John, the producer. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.